Thank you so much. That was actually just a little clip of what we do with the Blexit movement, and so far we have gone to 4 cities, and we're going to pick that up again in the fall and do 4 more cities and take it on through 2019. And the crowds are just getting bigger and bigger, and it's something that is just so close to my heart, and I really feel blessed to be able to sort of lead this ideological revolution for minorities in America. I want to talk to you guys today a little bit about the left. I could sit up here all day and I could rip the left, right? I could talk about their disastrous policies. I could talk about their corruption. I could talk about how stupid some of their leaders are. If I really wanted to be insulting and I wanted to agitate the situation. But I think it's actually better for us to think about what they're good at, right? If we're going to win a war against the left, we have to understand how it is that we even got to the point that we have to debate socialism in America. How we even got to the point that it is that we have to debate communism in America. How we got to this point that we have people that hate America that are in Congress. We have people that dislike America that are leading the inner cities. I mean, it was Cuomo who said America was never a great country, right? America was never great. How did we get to this position? Well, the left has to be good at something. And I consider this a lot, especially as I've been writing my book. What is it? What is it about the left that grabs people into it? What are they actually brilliant at? And the answer is marketing. The left is really good at marketing horrendous ideas. And we're not so good when it comes to marketing common sense ideas, right? That really is the disparity. The left has been brilliant at marketing. The left has been brilliant at linguistics. I mean, think about Planned Parenthood. How great does that sound? Who doesn't want a Planned Parenthood? That sounds responsible. Never mind the fact that they're slaughtering millions of babies, right? Don't pay attention to that fact. Because they're marketing something that sounds good. Pro-choice sounds wonderful. Who doesn't want choices in their life? The left has been able to reintroduce awful concepts that harm America, concepts that harm minorities, concepts that have already been tried before and failed. And they're able to market it brilliantly because they're really good at linguistics. I had an article written about me in the Washington Post. They write many hit pieces about me. I look forward to them each and every time. This one in particular really got my attention, and it was aimed at all Republicans, saying that we are now using the term Democrat plantation, and it's awful, and it's all thanks to Candace Owens, who has popularized this expression. And it's wrong, and it's sinful, and yes, Black Americans are voting for Democrats, but it's because they have the authority to do so, because it's within our agency to vote. So shame on me for saying and trying to liken it to slavery. Shame on Candace Owens. If I had $1 for every time I heard shame on Candace Owens, man, I'd be a billionaire. Let me take you guys through this. So when I said, with all their myths, is that when I said Democrat plantation, when I said that liberal blacks are on a Democrat plantation, I wasn't saying it to be cute or funny. I was saying it because I meant it. Okay? I wasn't using it as an expression. I was using it in its literal interpretation. Let's think about what the institution of slavery was about in America when we had it, okay? So we had slavery in this country. Democrats used Black Americans to do their labor so that they could enrich themselves. It was of no benefit to the Black Americans that were working on those plantations. Kind of reminds me of what's happening today. Democrats use Black Americans. They absolutely rely upon the Black American vote. We do the labor and we get absolutely nothing in return. Nothing in our communities has gotten better over the last 60 years in our allegiance to the Democrat Party. But that's not it. Let's think about what actually life was like for a slave when you were on the plantation. One component of it, and you guys know this, is that slaves were not allowed to read, right? Slaves were not allowed to read. They would risk having their limbs cut off if they were caught reading. In fact, that policy was so severe that if you were a white American and you were caught trying to teach a slave to read, you also would be in legal trouble. It was that illegal because what did the Democrats at that time understand? Well, you can't enslave an educated mind. If the slaves were reading, they may have caught wind, they may have read a newspaper, they may have caught wind that the Republicans and the abolitionist movement was taking off. They couldn't have that, right? If the slaves had learned to read and write, and this was a real fear at that time, they may have started writing their own passes because, I mean, this wasn't the time of printers and computers. Your freedom papers were just written on a piece of parchment. You could have just walked off and showed that paperwork and said that you were a free slave. So they had to make sure that slaves remained ignorant and that they controlled the narrative entirely. Lest they realize, oh my goodness, there are people that are fighting for us in the North. What are we doing here? We should be having an uprising. Now you might say, oh, at least we don't have that, Candace. Black Americans are educated. No, we're not. Did you hear my testimony in Congress? You guys may have seen that. One of the things that I said in my opening statement was that the left loves to take our focus away. They want Black Americans to focus on the convenient rise of white supremacy. And I call it convenient because it's amazing how white supremacy pops up every 4 years just ahead of an election cycle, isn't it? I mean, white supremacy has some timing, I'll tell you that much, right? Suddenly the headlines are dominating white supremacy, the rise of white supremacy. This is what Black Americans need to be afraid of because they're distracting us from the real issues. Like the fact that 75% of Black boys in California cannot pass a simple, basic reading exam. Like the fact that in the city of Baltimore, inner city, they conducted a test across 5 schools and could not find a single child that was proficient in reading and writing. Isn't that astonishing? A single child that was proficient in reading and writing. So the education system is deteriorating the Black mind. Now, why is that? Why would they want to do that? For the very same reasons on the plantation, because they want to control the narrative. And this is what I talk about when I say it's Plato's allegory of the cave. They want to make sure that they can tell Black Americans what the shadows on the wall are, tell them that this is reality, when in fact, it is not reality. What else happened for slaves? Okay, I read Frederick Douglass, the Republican, and a former slave who was very well read and wrote extensively about his life as a slave. He talked about the breakdown of family. Frederick Douglass felt nothing, he said, when his mother died. He felt nothing when he left his sisters on the plantation, because from the time he was a small child, he never had to bond with his mother. This was a part of the programming that the slave masters, who all happened to be Democrat at the start of the Civil War, not a single Republican owned a slave in this nation. Not a single Republican. And they wanted to make sure that there was this breakdown of family to make sure there was no bonding, right? So that they felt nothing, so that when they traded them, they traded these men like they were horses for a show, that they wouldn't have that emotional attachment to their families. But what are they doing right now in Black America? We know that in the 1960s, the single motherhood rate was 23% in Black America, and that was considered really high. At that time, the writings were, oh, this is a problem. 23% of Black Americans, Black children are growing up without a father in the home. Today, that number is 74%. No one is talking about it. You will not find a single Democrat person who says, or a candidate that's running for office that wants to talk about that. Why don't they want to talk about that? Because they agree with that. That is what they want. They understand that the breakdown of family is so essential to what they're trying to accomplish. This is why we also see the removal. I always question, why is it suddenly it's popular to hate God on the left, right? Like atheism is really picking up. Like they really just don't ever want to talk about God. He's routinely being mocked. Mike Pence is being mocked for things like being faithful to his wife. It's really bizarre. And when you consider why that is, whether you're religious or not, you have to consider why that is. Why is the left so bitter and angry about people that are religious? Well, that's because the left wants government to replace God. Okay? So they have to make a mockery of God. They have to make a mockery. They have to make sure that people believe in nothing else but government as a solution for all of their problems. You remove God. You remove the family. You remove structure. And then what happens? People start to turn to government. That's exactly what happens. We picked things up and slavery was abolished, but the abolishing slavery did not mean that suddenly the Democrats were thrilled about having Black people in America. It just means that their moral preferences had updated in terms of how they wanted to still accomplish the same goals, ushering in the Jim Crow era. All right, well, what was the Jim Crow era all about? The separation of blacks and whites, right? On the basis of your skin color. White fountains over here, black fountains over here, white schools and black schools over here, making sure there was a line because they felt that white people were better than black people. Well, at least we don't have that today. At least there's no segregation. So that's one thing that we can say is in the past and we move forward. I was just kidding. We haven't moved forward because we're reintroducing that as well. For those of you that don't know today, there are safe spaces for black people. How about that for linguistics? Safe spaces on campuses for black people. All black dorms because white people are so oppressing. What we're talking about is self-imposed segregation being reintroduced as a progressive value. They are reintroducing segregation right now in America, and no one's talking about it. And I encounter these people and I say, you do realize this is exactly what our ancestors fought against. This is what they did not want this. They don't want us to be separate from white Americans. This is not empowering, this is disempowering. You see that also when you think about the way that they're marketing the way relationships should be. You know, I got engaged recently, and my fiance, thank you very much. My fiance is British and Caucasian, and all of the comments from these progressives, oh, of course you're marrying a white person. This is why you are not black. Oh, my God. It's stunning, right? It's stunning. I said, oh, well then, why don't we just put back in place miscegenation laws? Why don't we just say blacks and whites are not allowed to marry? This is the mindset of people that is somehow empowering if you only marry people across your racial lines. This is what the left is perpetuating in society. This game of linguistics, which I've studied, where did we start to see this appear? When did they start realizing that they could dress things up and resell it to people, and they would just believe it? And I trace it back to really the progressive era. Margaret Sanger, Planned Parenthood. I mean, wow, what a doozy. Isn't it amazing they're going down, pulling down statues of conservatives. They want Robert E. Lee took down, which, by the way, technically Robert E. Lee killed a lot of white men, but, you know, don't listen to me on that. They're pulling down everything on account of racism, but they celebrate Margaret Sanger. I mean, has there ever been a woman who has authored the deaths of more black people than Margaret Sanger? That Planned Parenthood policy. Go read her quotes. They are astonishing. They really are astonishing. In a letter that she wrote to a doctor, she said, you know, we don't want to get out that what we are after is the extermination of blacks. So how are we going to educate them and tell them that we don't want them uprising against what we're trying to accomplish? And what she suggested in this letter was that they go through the churches. She said the black people have a lot of faith in the ministers. If we go to the ministers and tell them to sell it to the black community, then suddenly it'll be celebrated. And she was right. As sinister as she was absolutely right. Today we have, in cities like New York, more black babies are aborted than born alive. And what happens? Now they want to make it even more progressive. 9 months in the womb, they want people to be able to abort the baby. We're talking about really sick, sinister stuff, and in response, what is the left doing? Celebrating. They lit up New York when this policy went through that you could terminate a pregnancy of a child in its mother's womb at 9 months. They lit up the skyline in pink. I can't even imagine how proud Margaret Sanger would have been to see that, to see how far her progressive policy, which was always about sterilizing America during the progressive era. What they were fearful of was the overpopulation of what they considered to be races and breeds that were against the Nordic race, which they saw as supreme. And it wasn't just black Americans. It was a lot of immigrant Americans as well. There were Jewish people that they wanted to get rid of. I mean, it was a really nasty time. And this woman is now hailed as a hero. How was the left able to perpetuate this? That's the question I ask myself. I know they're good at marketing. I know they're good at linguistics. How are they able to perpetuate this? And it's a question that you guys have to ask yourselves. The answer is culture. The left won the culture war. And that's all that really mattered. It didn't really matter that they had no policies to back it up. It didn't even matter that everything that they were trying to propose to the black community, the Hispanic community, was awful because they won the culture war. Why do you think you have all these Hollywood people that are anti-Trump? What do you think that's about? They won Hollywood. They focused on Hollywood. They wanted to make sure that they could get one dumb actress to say something to 10 million of their followers. That idea could be perpetuated instantly. That is why you're seeing these celebrities like Miley Cyrus half naked, trying to make aborting babies cool, licking cakes and making it seem like it's somehow sexy to kill your child. This is what's happening when they win the culture war. And unfortunately, for us and for Republicans and conservatives, we gave up the culture war. We didn't just give it up. We stuck up our nose to it. I say this from experience. When I first got started, I knew that the conversation had to change. As much as I love all of these conferences that we do, I knew that I was not going to get a bunch of Hispanic and Black Americans in the room at a Republican conference. I knew that it had to be more of a cultural movement, that the conversation had to be more colloquial. And when I first started, not too many doors, I wasn't open, it wasn't wide arms to people saying, thanks, Candace. There are a lot of really mean pieces written about me by, I guess more austere Republicans saying these are the kind of antics that we should reject. We don't do humor, we're serious, we're stern. But what does that earn you? What does being serious and stern all the time earn the Republican Party, right? Nothing. Trump won a cultural war. When people thought he was being foolish and ridiculous with chants like lock her up, that's cultural. People want to wear that on a t-shirt. That's hashtag culture. That's the direction that the world is going to. And that is the direction and the same ground that we can play on too. It's okay to be funny. It's okay to be likable. It's okay. It's actually, I think, the best way to change hearts and minds is through humor. And by the way, the left is giving us tons of humor right now. Let's be serious. We've got AOC. She doesn't know what's going on. I mean, and Rashida Tlaib and the things that are coming out of their mouths. I mean, farting cows? Why shouldn't we be mocking the fact that they want to get rid of cows as a part of their Green New Deal? There's a lot of content and a lot of ways for us to grow the conservative movement at this time in America. I received a blessing because I was a victim of that entire complex. And when I say a victim, I mean ideological prisoner. For 24 years of my life, I was a liberal. I was the person. I understand how they did it because I fell under their spell. I believe that all Republicans were racist. I believe that all conservatives were out for themselves, were wealthy, rich Americans that were out of touch with the little people. I fell for all of that because we had an education system in place that made sure that I fell for all of that, to make sure that I wasn't thinking critically. And then I had a blessing that happened in my life, and it happened in a lot of people's lives too, when our president came down the escalator that day. That was a blessing, and that was a moment for me. My initial reaction when I saw Trump and Melania come down that escalator was, heck no. I was so opposed to it you wouldn't believe. I said, this is a mockery. We can't have this man in office. This would be terrible. He's a reality TV star. No way. But what was more important than the things that I was thinking against him were the things that I wasn't thinking. Never once in my head. I may have thought that he wasn't serious. But I never thought he was a racist or sexist or misogynist. Just like that overnight, the media wanted us to believe all these things. Racist, sexist, misogynist. At one point, they had him pegged as a rapist when Lisa Bloom found 372 women and suddenly fallen out of amnesia, right? And remember that Trump assaulted them 472 years ago, right? At one point, they had him pegged as incestuous and said that he had feelings for Ivanka. That was my aha moment. I said, wow, this is a man, as a young woman that grew up listening to hip-hop music, this is a man that was loved by everyone in the hip-hop community. He was in so many songs. Everyone wanted to be like Trump. He was the beacon of freedom and of success. I had Jay-Z and Beyonce in their songs talking about how they were sipping poolside at Mar-a-Lago. It was a symbol of status. He was celebrated. As someone who worked in New York, getting invited to a Trump party, all of the celebrities were there. They loved him. And in a moment's notice, they said, nope, never mind, cancel everything that we've said for the last 2 decades about this guy, he's a racist. That was my wake-up moment. I said, I'm just not that foolish. I'm not that foolish to believe that he became all of these things. And I asked myself the most important question, which was, is it possible that racism is being used as a theme to turn black people into single-issue voters? Is it possible that they have been manipulating us emotionally because they know that we are absent facts and that their education system has miseducated us? And of course the answer was yes. I only have a minute left here, and I just want everyone to feel the hope that I feel every single day. I wake up every single day, and people say, how do you take it? How do you take so much abuse? And the truth is, because I'm the most optimistic person in the entire world. I think that when you get to the point that they start calling black people white supremacists, we gotta be close to winning, right? Speaking about my grandfather, which many of you may have seen me talk about him on other videos. My grandfather was born in the South. He is the closest person to me. He's my best friend and my mentor. And he was raised in the segregated South in Fayetteville, North Carolina, on a sharecropping farm. My grandfather's first job was laying out tobacco to dry in a hot attic when he was 5 years old and picking cotton. My grandfather grew up with the real KKK, spraying bullets into his home at night. My grandfather moved up to the north and married my grandmother when he was 17 years old, and I was fortunate during my formative years to grow up in their household. And you'd be shocked to know that never once did my grandfather ever utter a word against white people. He never once said anything bad about white people. Never once did my grandfather tell me that I couldn't do something because of the color of my skin. My grandfather believed in three things: hard work, family, and faith. He had us around the table reading the Bible every morning. No elbows on the table. I still don't know what that rule means, but I don't dare do it, even to this day. And my grandfather today, he retired, and when he retired, he went back to the South, and he purchased that sharecropping farm that he grew up in. Represents to me the American dream that I wake up every single day fighting to protect, okay? It is the philosophy that unites us all, not on the basis of our sex, on our gender, of our sexuality, not on the basis of our skin tone, but on the basis of our values and our basis of the American dream. And that American dream is that this country, if you are willing to work hard and make good decisions, this country will reward you. That is the American dream, and I hope that all of you guys will stand with me and fight for it, for people that need to hear this message.